So we're on to CBT, which we talked about vaguely in the previous lessons. So this is cognitive behavioural therapy, all right, and is an alternative to medication and chemical input. All right, so look at our PowerPoint just to make sure we've got negative schemas. The second PowerPoint is just asking you to put some negative schemas and internal attributions onto these, just to check that we've got everything from last time. Quick look at what our objectives are, and then this idea. How much do you already know about CBT? All right, so into your books, can you write down what you already know? Obviously, we're not going to put it on post-it notes around the room. But write down what you think you already know, and then there is a little video for you to watch. So pause me on here and watch the video so that you can see that. All right, we are then going to look at pages 230 and 231 as a class. So on 230, it's all in the mind. A well-known psychologist called Edwin Guthrie described how some of his students agreed to play a trick on one of their classmates, a girl who was shy and awkward. The boys pretended she was actually the most attractive girl in the class and made sure she was taken out to important events and always had someone to dance with. By the end of the year, she had changed. She was confident and easy to get on with, so it was no longer a chore for the boys to go out with her. In fact, they accepted her as a success. What happened? Presumably, the girl started to think of herself as desirable because so many boys wanted to date her, and the change in the way she thought about herself meant that her behaviour changed. Perhaps she stood up straighter, felt more confident about telling jokes, and took more interest in her appearance. The change was all down to how she thought about herself. So she hadn't changed as a person, but the positivity that she now had and the positive schemas and internal attributes that she had changed her whole persona. Not only that, I mean, what we can't know from this is that maybe, although she was shy, she still had all these personality traits. It was just that the boys didn't see them because she was shy. But once they actually started spending time with her, they realised that she was a nice person, right? So this kind of makes me think of that Lizzo song about, I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you doing? Feeling good as hell, right? This is the thing, okay? And you remember I've told you before about how previously my ex-husband would say to me, oh, you're not wearing that when you go out. And I'd say, yes, I am, because I think I look great in it, right? I could do that at a certain point, but there were certain points in that relationship where I couldn't do that, and I would submit to his will almost. And this is what people do. So cognitive behaviour therapy is trying to get people to that point where they can be strong and be positive about what they're going to do. So this is the most commonly used psychological treatment for depression. That wasn't always the case, but over the last 30 years, it has become increasingly popular. One key element of CBT is that it focuses on what a patient or in CBT called a client, thinks. Good mental health is the result of rational thinking, which is defined as thinking in ways that allow people to be happy and free of pain. Poor mental health, such as depression, results from negative, irrational or faulty thinking. So such negative thinking leads to depression because people who become depressed also tend to think in all or nothing terms. This is called catastrophizing, making everything into a big failure, such as everything is not going right now and it will always be like this. Therefore, in order to reduce feelings of depression, a therapist aims to change a client's irrational negative thinking to rational thinking. Again, if you think about when something negative has happened to you. And relationships are a perfect example of this. When you first break up with someone, you feel like everybody around you is in a happy, loving relationship. Nobody else is single, so there's nobody else for you to go out and do anything with. And no one's ever going to love you in any case because you're so awful. That's why the other person left you. Okay, those are all those negative thoughts that we have. Now, for some people, that will spiral into depression because they can't break away from those thoughts. That's your cognitive patterns that need to be changed. So behaviour. The second key element in CBT is the client's behaviour. The aim in changing the way a person thinks is that this will then change their behaviour. CBT also targets behaviour directly, for example, using behavioural activation. A client is asked to plan one pleasant activity each day, such as making a meal, which will make them feel they have accomplished something, or going to a film, because that will be a nice break from routine. Such pleasant activities should create more positive emotions and help improve the client's mood. And we need to think about this on a regular basis. How often do we do something in the day which is a pleasant activity just for ourselves, not for anybody else? If everybody lived their lives like that, we might all be much happier. And some people might say that's a bit selfish, but you need to make time for yourself. Okay, so when I'm watching Coronation Street, my little guilty pleasure, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it, it's half an hour or an hour in a day that is just for me. And if anybody interrupts me, they're in trouble. So that's what we need to be thinking about this. So the therapist deals with irrational thoughts. One method that is used to deal with the negative and irrational thoughts held by a depressed person is called disputing. The therapist aims to challenge the client's irrational thoughts. For example, do you always do badly on schoolwork? Where is your proof that your best friend doesn't like you anymore? The end result should be that the client is able to think more rationally and develop greater self-belief and self-liking. Yeah, so when you're asked a question and you can only come up with negative responses to it, here is where the therapist is pushing the person to try to find something positive. They're not going to give them the answers. It has to come from within the person. So then the client deals with those irrational thoughts. Another method that is used is to ask a client to keep a thought diary in particular. They should record any unpleasant emotions experienced. Next, they should record the automatic negative thoughts associated with these events and rate how much they believe in these thoughts on a scale of 1 to 100%. Finally, clients are required to write a rational response to the automatic thoughts and rate their belief in this rational response, again as a percentage. Right? And the chances are that as you first do this, the negative thoughts will have really high percentages, and even though you write down positive thoughts, you don't really believe them. But over a period of time, when you're getting that positivity there all the time, it can really help to move you forward. All right, let's look at the stretch and challenge. So Albert Ellis was one of the founding fathers of CBT in the 1960s. You can watch him on YouTube being fairly aggressive with the client when disputing her irrational behaviour. Later in his life, he came to recognise that an important ingredient in successful therapy was convincing the client of their value as a human being. If the client feels worthless, they will be less willing to consider changing their beliefs and behaviour. However, if the therapist provides respect and appreciation, regardless of what the client does and says, i.e. unconditional positive regard, this will facilitate a change in beliefs and attitudes. So, unconditional positive regard can be seen as an element of CBT. Now, you might have heard people say that people surround themselves with people who agree with them. And of course you do, because you want people who are going to affirm to you that what you are saying is right. Now, if you look to the top right on page 231, there's a picture of Tom Daly, very well known to me and my daughter. Now, he had a spectacular failure in the 2016 Olympics in Rio. He failed to qualify for the finals after 4 years of hard work and preparation for it. Now, he might have responded by becoming depressed about his failure, but this would have been irrational. He could have said, I'm just not good enough, I'm giving up diving, full stop. It was one failure amongst a lifetime of successes, and that's where you've got to try to put things into perspective. But that's what's so difficult if you have negative schemas already. He chose the rational view, and his response was, I must try harder for the Olympics in 4 years' time. Right, so in 2020, what is going to happen? Well, the Olympics might not be on in any case, so let's see. Okay, so there's a little study tip. It says, when you outline CBT, make sure that you link your description to depression rather than just describing CBT in general, as there are different types of CBT for different mental illnesses. All right, so we're talking specifically about depression here. So, an evaluation. Lasting effectiveness. One strength of using CBT to treat depression is that it has lasting effectiveness. The long-term aim of the therapy is to supply a depressed person with the tools to help them deal with future episodes of depression. Once they have learned techniques such as challenging their irrational thoughts and thinking of more rational responses, they can then apply this again and again. Therefore, this therapy does not just deal with the problem now, but potentially offers a long-term solution. A client may have difficulties again many years later, and they can avoid another episode of depression by drawing on the skills they learned. Okay, so this is not just a one-off fix, like taking medication. If it happens again, there are ways and strategies that you've now been given to cope. However, one weakness is that some people are not willing to spend the considerable amount of time and thought that is required for successful CBT. So it's not for everyone. And especially in today's society, people want a quick fix solution, which is where drugs come in. So the benefits of CBT come at a considerable cost in terms of time. Typically, a client will spend months meeting with their therapist once a week and also doing homework in between sessions. We all know how much you love homework. There is also a considerable cost in terms of effort. Taking medication such as SSRIs is a passive activity. You just have to remember to take the pill. CBT involves a willingness to think about yourself and also to be prepared to change. This means that many people drop out of CBT treatments or fail to engage sufficiently to gain any benefits. And that is a problem as well. You know, some people may have a problem, but they don't really perceive it, and therefore they think there's nothing wrong with them. So this can be a major issue. A holistic approach. So this is one of the strengths of CBT, as it is regarded as holistic. So CBT is focused on treating the whole person and looking at the bigger picture, rather than focusing on the constituent parts of depression, such as neurotransmitters. The approach concerns the higher psychological level of what a person feels and thinks. This may be a preferable approach because it deals with the core symptoms of depression, e.g. feeling sad and having negative thoughts, and thus may ultimately be a more effective approach to treatment than the biological approach, of the reductionist approach. Okay, so yes, we can see that. It's not just saying, okay, well, it's a chemical issue, we rebalance your chemicals, you will be fine. Okay, it's looking at the whole person and all those things that interact with them. And we've said, haven't we, that you have to look at what the triggers are, where those things are happening. All right, so we have covered the pages in the book. Can you now look at the PowerPoint? There is a CBT sheet to fill in on cognitions, behaviour and therapy. There is a clip from Mind for you to watch and just complete those boxes. When you've done that, there is a box with some ideas on there as to what you could have written. Check that you have written something similar to that. All right, then there is another clip from YouTube for you to have a look at, and then you are going to imagine you are the therapist. Okay, I have given you the sheets to be able to do this, so you need to dispute the faulty thought processes of the patients on there. Okay, there are then some evaluation questions on CBT. Please have a go at trying to answer those, just so that you are certain that you understand where CBT stands in the continuum of everything. And just think about where we have strengths and weaknesses in it and give reasons behind what you're saying. Then we talk about this idea of a compromise. That's just very quick to give you an idea. And then finally, of course, my favourite things, complete the apply it concept and the check it from page 231. As a revision, do apply it research from page 111, and then look at the revision book as well to get some more activities.